Welcome back to the latest episode of Captain's Corner. Very interesting episode today. We are going to delve into a topic that I think almost every organization, irrespective of size and irrespective of number of employees, has had to deal with in some form or the other, which is the eternal debate of specialists versus generalists. I'm going to take a step back and really give you my world view of this topic, right? So, firstly, I don't think there is a tag or specialist or generalist for anybody, simply because I think it's very contextual. I think we are always being specialists or generalists basis the situation that we are in. I'll give you a simple example. I am a self-proclaimed specialist of fashion, but I am a generalist in fish. I'm very new. I've hardly spent a few years in this category. I've spent more than a decade in fashion, so I would be bold enough to say that I would term myself a specialist in that category. But in seafood and in fish, I'm definitely a generalist. Similarly, I've got with me a bunch of very interesting guys from the Captain Fresh team, and I'll let them introduce themselves. But a good mix of specialists and generalists in our current context and scenario. So yeah, why don't you guys introduce yourself?
Hi, this is Swapnil. I currently look into the operations part into the Captain Fresh working environment. Outside of Captain Fresh, I am a musician. I'm a writer, and I think that pretty much stress it keep works as a stress buster for me.
Got it. So you're basically saying we are a very stressful environment.
Not really, but I have my remedies.
Understood. Okay.
So I'm Deepak Bhatt, and I head the finance strategy for the organization currently, and I work with the leadership team here. So I'm basically an investor turned VC guy turned into an operator, and so here I am, and reading and writing have been my things that keeps me sane most of the times.
Deepak is relatively new, so no stress busters yet. He'll get there. Yes.
Hey, this is Abhinav, and I'm a part of the procurement team here at Captain Fresh. Almost a year now into this, joined in back September last year, and yeah, has been an amazing experience till now. And outside, as everyone mentioned, I'm a great foodie, and I also have the privilege of some of the great foodies with me in my team, with whom I get a chance to work with every day. And yeah, amazing bunch of people all around. So yeah, looking forward.
Yeah, I'm Ashwin, and I've been with CF for last 20 months. I started as a program manager, and I've been taking care of sales and category in one of the business verticals in India for last 1 odd year. It has been one hell of a ride till now, at least. And yeah, apart from professional thing, I like to play football. I like to drive, and again, as I mentioned, I like to eat. So yeah, that sums me up.
Okay, great. So let's dive right in. I'm going to extend the debate of what is a specialist or a generalist. And if you were to just take a step back, would love to understand each of your perspectives of, firstly, are any of you calling yourselves a specialist or a generalist? If yes, why? If no, why?
I think I'll start with maybe probably stating about, because I have been working in operations supply chains for a long time. One may consider me a specialist into this domain, but I think apart from this also, there have been situations where I have done something outside of operations and supply chain. So it's more like a specialist part, but yeah, I've done a little bit of the generalist stuff as well.
Got it.
So I think I started my career as a specialist. I was thrown into something super complex of putting systems controls into SAP in Unilever, right? So I mean, which is something that I have never done. But I think over the course of years, I have had a career path where I have done both generalist and specialist role. And over a period of time, I think I've at least currently. As I drive M&A, etc. for the organization, I think I'm doing a very highly specialized job. So somewhere, I think maybe 50-50 I have had chances of my career, but here I think I'm driving something very niche within the organization.
Got it. What about you guys?
Abhi, I believe like you should know something of everything and everything of something.
Wow.
So for me, that something has been procurement over the last 5-6 years, building
Yeah.
supply ecosystems, and have been fortunate enough to build it for complex categories like healthcare, pharmaceuticals for different organizations. But again, that something of everything doesn't work. So when you're thrown into a different landscape, say for me it was fish here. So with those basics of procurement, I was able to somehow dwell through my journey the last 1 year, and this is where I believe it's not specialist and generalist. It's not specialist or generalist. It's specialist and both of them come together. So even if you see within a team, when I came in, I had a very different experience. Specialists and all helped me along, and in your mind also, it's not about just the team. In your mind also, you'll have to play that specialist and generalist to look into any problem statement and then solve it. So yeah, it's all coming in together and fighting the right, fighting the right way is
Yeah.
what I would say.
Yeah. What about you, Ashwin?
So, retrospectively, if I look at it collectively at my professional journey, I would call myself a generalist, but there were a few pockets in between where I've been specialist. For example, I started as an analyst in data for oil and gas. That time it was a half and half. Then I got into manufacturing for a couple of years. Then I got into supply chain consulting, which is a specialist, being specialist in supply chain design, network design, and warehousing. Then I got into program management. Then I went to commercials. So again, I believe that we are somewhat specialist and generalist at some point in time in our lives, deciding what that situation is and what our expertise is. So
Yeah. I think that's the part that a lot of people don't take the time to think of. And I think usually when we're put into a high expectation environment where you've joined an organization and people are expecting you to perform or bring what you've learned so far to the table, you end up choosing one side or the other, but without realizing that at some other point or in some other world or in some other organization, you were on the other side.
Yeah.
Right? You could be a specialist or a generalist in Captain Fresh, but you have been the other persona in either. And I keep joking with everybody that I'm a generalist dad. Probably 30 years from now, I want to be a specialist dad. My son will not agree, but it's one of those things that you have to. The only way to become a specialist is to be a generalist first, then spend enough time learning, honing, streamlining everything that you've learned to become a specialist. And there is a lot of value that both perspectives bring to the table, right? So if you look at the way generalists approach any problem statement versus the way specialists approach any problem statement, very different, but usually they have a way of getting to a great outcome. So now if I just step into a different way of asking you guys the same question, and I'm going to be fairly blunt about it. When you are on one side of the funnel, either a specialist or a generalist, how do you manage the views of the other side?
So I think it's pretty frustrating at times because we also being into a particular role, we try to highlight certain things or raise alarms, and also at the other side when the business team takes a call, which probably is not what I was trying to recommend, it gets a little annoying. But I think we understand that there must be something that they're probably seeing the larger picture, and I think we respect that. So we keep doing our job and we still will raise the same alarm again, but I think that works. So they have probably the better insights into the situations and they take a call accordingly, so that works for us.
But
so
yeah,
I also agree with the fact that there will be conflicts, right? Because I feel that specialist is more about how and generalist is more about why, and those two are inherently conflicting words, right? When one person is trying to tell you how to do it and the other person asking why you're doing it, right? But I think best part is if both people are at least aligned that they have a common goal, it becomes much more easier. That's the case.
So I think what also cuts across between generalists and specialists or navigating some of these challenges in the business is the first principles. In the sense, I think we are as much as there are uh, specialists who come with a very probably a very deep view on something, with a generalist coming across with something else, the first principles remain there. And I think that's the fundamental tying knot between getting to the outcomes, right? Because beyond that there are uh, like differences of opinion in terms of bringing in that specialist knowledge versus like, hey, you know the subject, you probably don't know this, etc. I think the common thread is the first principles, that we that fundamentally each of us know our job, and how do we bring that additional thing to the table so that we bind together people to the better outcomes.
Here's an interesting part about the industry that we are in, right? We are the oldest skill known to man.
Yeah.
So fishing and seafood is one of the oldest trades. Like, I think people have been trading in seafood since the dawn of mankind, which means by virtue of it being a really old and really nuanced industry, there are so many specialists in different parts of the supply chain, right? Either you're a supplier, or you're a factory owner, or you're a distributor, or you're a customer, or you're a retailer. And because they have done this for so many years, and they have done it efficiently for so many years, there is a certain way of doing things, and that's where the specialists usually come from. And then on the other side, this industry has not seen enough technology. And I wouldn't say it is because of the lack of trying. It's just a really complicated problem to solve. Too many species, act of God category. Because of that, it's a really complicated problem for technology to come in and solve it, something that we are trying to do. And so a lot of the problems, or the lot of the solves that have happened through technology in other industries has not happened here yet.
Correct.
Which means you have two conflicting, paradigms coming together. There are so many specialists who have done this beautifully, efficiently for a very long time, and now there are generalists, or people from other categories, other industries, other ways of thinking, who are now coming to infuse new ideas, new ways of working into this. So there is definitely going to be friction. But here is the interesting and important part for you guys to actually tell me, right? There is an ego, personal ego, and there is a personal passion. I don't think anybody here is here because you're not passionate. I think everybody here is super passionate, and it is very difficult to differentiate or draw a line between where passion stops and ego starts, right? So how has this played out? Any examples, something that you guys think has helped?
I think, Abhi, again to your point, it's very important to collaborate. Like, whenever you are in a situation where you mentioned that there's a passion on one side, there's ego on the other side, it's very important for us to identify that end goal, or identify the outcome that you are seeking for. And it's very important for all of us to collaborate and then solve for it. At times it may be, as Swapnil mentioned, at times it may be frustrating for someone from a specialist's point of view. But again, when you try to put yourself into shoes of others, you come across those thinking points, and then you try and solve for it. So I think we had one such activity, or one such hell of a task.
We had
growth
this growth
assessment.
assessment a couple of months back. We celebrated the end of it. So I mean, I came to the end, but I think the whole period where we were working on it, it was pretty much where we were constantly working out on different ways. How can we reduce cost? There were definitely some ideas from the category. They would do some different. They would try out some different markets and all sorts of things.
I'm constantly
Eventually-
fighting too, right?
Yeah.
So all those fights with respect to why you're not doing reducing your cost, why you're not doing anything with logistics and stuff. So I think there it all helped, because we also got to understand the side where what sales was coming through, and it helped. So the collaboration definitely did help in that completion.
But is there something that you guys tell yourselves before you let a situation spiral out of control. Because see, look, I think everybody has a point of view. It usually ends up being the person in the room who has the loudest point of view ends up winning. Is there a different way in which we approach it?
So
or-
it's organization first approach, Abhi, right? I think each of us come with different backgrounds, as you mentioned, right? I mean, I come with FMCG experience where like selling soap is, I mean, probably Unilever, the best company in the world to be doing it. But I mean, I think as much as I come with all those backgrounds, etc., I think the end of the day, it's organization first. The growth assessment project itself, what we have been discussing, I think is um, the finance putting together a structure to say, hey, can we look at these markets? This is how the numbers stack up. Why don't we look at like no cutting this out, maybe adding here, etc. I think, but there has been a sales guy who has been doing something. I mean, probably it just hurts to see that first cut, right? I mean, just to see, hey, I mean, I know how to sell fish. Who are you to be telling me? But it's still organization first. I think that is where some of these things, I think, just come together, right? And maybe without us probably planning for all of this, it just fits in that within a structure team, there are people who have a mix of all of this, and then we build on together, right?
Interesting. So you're basically saying that the only thing to keep reminding yourself on is the fact that the outcome should be good for Captain Fresh.
Absolutely.
Like one more point, I was like, it's not just like obviously conflicts will be there. Like Deepak said, right? Sales guy would have the objection that how could you tell me how to sell? Right? But if we take a like, I think we can take a step back there when we have such conflicts, and we have to really understand where the other person is coming from, what he or she is saying. They also have some background, some experiences, and they have some backing to what they are trying to tell us. So even it's not like that, like we have to understand it by ourselves that they are not trying to intrude into your work, but they are just putting some guidelines to it, which they know will matter that time or in the future. So we have to be conscious, like we have to take cognizance of that fact that this, like they might be right from their point of view, and we have to try to understand that they have valid point of view as well.
So mutual respect for each other's points, and a little bit of, not little bit of, I think quite a bit of empathy, like putting yourself in the other person's shoes and kind of taking a view that might be might be the opposite of what you're saying in the beginning, but then you see why the other person is saying it. And if everybody in the organization does it, then everybody is doing the same thing, and it kind of comes together beautifully, right? So essentially what we are all saying is there is no way culturally for an organization the balance between a generalist and a specialist will make or break the organization. In a category like ours, even more so, because like I said, we are the mixture of two large paradigms, right? Super specialists and super generalists coming together to kind of solve a really tough problem, and everybody has a point of view. So the secret sauce of making sure that Captain Fresh thrives, grows, continues to do what the vision is really building that balance.
Right.
Yeah.
But honestly, this is super difficult to do, because I know you guys are smiling at each other and being nice about it and all that here, but the reality of the matter is that there is a reason why you feel comfortable being yourself. Like I don't think any of you are expecting the other person to become somebody else. You continue to encourage everybody to come with their point of view, you continue to work together, you continue to solve big problems. So what is the key of maintaining balance? And why do you think we have done a good or a bad job so far? Captain Fresh has done a good or a bad job of maintaining that balance, and any personal experiences?
So according to me, I think even though we are termed as say specialist of any kind who are doing certain things, we are not always so. We are in a situation where we also sort of swap the roles with the generalist, wherein we are on the other side, or there are specific things that a team member is expected to do. So if we are doing some kind of projects, I don't always have to talk about something very specific. In the situation, it changes. So there is a mix of the kind of things that you need to do in a particular group that keeps on changing. So that gives you an option to be a generalist at times. At times you are a specialist. So it depends on the say set of group members that we are working with and the kind of objective we are looking at. So you always tend to take up the side which is suitable.
For me, like while you're working within a team, I've never taken that approach of okay, this is what a generalist thinks I should be doing it, or this is what a specialist thinks I should not be doing it. Right? For me, it's more of and. Even if you see logically, and would give you better results. So for me, it's all about thinking from both the point of views. Like if a specialist comes in with a certain idea or a certain approach, and I apply certain learnings from the other industry, as you said, this is like the age-old tradition known to mankind. When you're trying to disrupt that, when you're trying to get technology into play, you will have to change strategies. You can't be rigid that okay, this is how the industry was operating and this will continue to operate. So this is what I think around looking at this in our day-to-day lives.
Even on a day-to-day basis, you cannot decide to be just either specialist or generalist, right? Because we have to do what situation requires us to do. So, for example, in sales, when we are looking at a, let's say, broader country level performance, that time we monitor, track broader metrics like revenue, market share, margins, right? But when you want to work on something and when you want to drill down to a particular market, that time you have to move from a generalist to a specialist, or at least a half specialist. You need that support from within you and from your team as well. So we have to keep switching between these 2 points.
So adaptability to the situation.
And I think personally, I mean, we're just splitting this into 2 parts. If I have to like personally look at myself as a career and like thinking a little ahead in terms of where I work, how the organization will move, what sort of roles I should then look. I mean, how does this move into the larger organization's goals and agenda, whether it could be a specialist role or maybe, for example, a couple of 2 or 3 hats that I wear within the organization. There is a great generalist role that I play. There is also a very, very specific role on M&As that I play, right? It's a super special specialist role that I can probably say. And I think it's about, one is adaptability, having the right attitude to ensure that I am able to make use of the opportunities that is available within the organization, pull people along with me so that we move ahead. I think that's one. And again, other part of it is if I have to look from somebody, if I have to hire within a Captain Fresh, right? I mean, if I have to go on to hire and build my team as I build, I need to strike this balance. As much as I would probably be doing a role which is a specialist role, I do look at people who come with a generalist lens, not necessarily because they wouldn't have, they can probably do this role as well, right? I think it's a mix that we need to be looking at as an organization as we grow and we look at, we are expanding geography-wise, species-wise, we are getting into a significantly large markets, etc. It makes absolute sense for us to be trying to see how we look at people, build our teams with a mix of specialists and generalists so that we grow together in this journey.
I think that's also interesting, right? The way we build our teams are essentially basis what we as leaders believe. And if we believe that both specialists and generalists have a very specific role or important role to play and create a balance between, the way specialists and generalists are in the system, eventually everybody in our team will end up being the same way. And I believe that the missing piece of just building a high growth, complicated problem statement startup is one, getting the leaders right. Because if the leaders are people who come in with the belief that, hey, this is all about balance, get great talent, get people who are balanced like them, then it kind of percolates to every level in the organization. So yeah, that's and that being said, I think the ability to attract high quality talent has been one of the biggest problems of this industry.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I think this industry it's such a tough problem to solve that unless you have spent enough time in this industry, you can't solve it. And because of that, it has it is so many people have spent their entire lives in seafood, and so haven't got the exposure of any other industry, and vice versa as well, right? So just being able to get that right mix of talent is going to, and hopefully that's what we are trying to do, or we continue to do, will hopefully lead to a great outcome. But yeah, anything else, guys? I think the conversation was around what is a specialist or a generalist. I think we are clear that everybody is either a specialist or a generalist.
Or has been as part of their career growth.
Has been as part of the career, or even within Captain Fresh has to be adaptable enough to move across roles. Second, I think we spoke about how we deal with friction and ego versus passion, keeping the larger goal in mind, making sure that we're always thinking about what's good for Captain Fresh rather than personal egos getting in the way. And the third part, of course, is adaptability, learnability, balance, getting the right quality of talent into the company, making sure that everybody knows how to work together, collaborates, and gets to a greater outcome. So thank you very much. It's been I think this is the largest number of people we've had on a Captain's Corner. So hopefully it'll also be very impactful when everybody else in the org sees it. So thank you very much for coming.